It is now 2020, and with the new year comes a whole bunch of new books. These are my most anticipated books of the year 2020. Now, I'm going to be talking about a whole list of books here that I think are coming out this year. I'm not I'm not a fortune teller. Is that what they are? I can't tell the future. I can't say what is actually going to come out this year, but from the books that are being touted as being released this year, or the books that are being speculated about being released this year, I've just kind of gathered the ones that I'm most excited for and put them in this list that I'm going to talk through now. All right, we're going to go chronologically on release dates. So that starts with one that is supposed to come out March 3rd, and that is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first entry in a brand new series called Crescent City. Sarah J. Maas, by the way, is the author who wrote the Throne of Glass series. I know she's done another series. I haven't read that one. I loved the beginning of the Throne of Glass series. The prequel, really enjoyed. In fact, that one was my favorite of the series in total. It was called The Assassin's Blade, and was amazing. We had a killer young girl that was an assassin or trained to be an assassin, and she was our kind of protagonist. But as the series continued, it slowly turned into Twilight. I get some of you might be like, oh, that sounds really good. But for me, not the biggest Twilight fan, a little bit older. I'm also a guy. Does that make a difference? But by the third or fourth book, I was done with the Throne of Glass series, didn't really care for it anymore. However, I always enjoyed Maas's writing and her storytelling and her characters, and so I'm really excited about trying out House of Earth and Blood. But I've got to be a little bit nervous in reading what the book is about, the little excerpt or tidbit. It talks about angels and demons and assassinations, which sounds a lot like werewolves and vampires and assassinations. But I'm willing to try it, and I'm also a sucker for covers, and that one looks really good. The next book is to be released April 7th of this year. It is called Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. And a lot of people know this author. I'm familiar with her as well. She wrote the Divergent series. And I've never been the biggest fan of the Divergent series. I gotta admit, I just read the first book. It was okay, and I didn't really want to make space to read the future books. So maybe it got better. Probably got worse. However, Veronica Roth is now releasing her first ever novel written for an adult audience. So this isn't just for young adults. This isn't for kids. This is her first adult book, whatever that might mean. And I can't express how much I am a fan of the concept of this book. There are 5 heroes, 5 characters who once saved the world from the Dark One. And they did so, however, a decade ago. 10 years ago, they saved the world. And so now there are 20-somethings that are having to deal with the emotional, the mental, the life fallout that comes with being heroes 10 years ago as a world moves on. That sounds like a really cool premise for a book. Adjusting her genre slightly from young adult to adult and starting this brand new series that's always somewhat sketchy, and it can either be one of the best things ever or a complete disaster. Either way, I'm here for it. The cover really sucks though. Like, really, what is this? May 19th, we go back to the world of Panem with a prequel novel to the Hunger Games series called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. And this is a new entry into the Hunger Games saga, and I don't even care what it's about or when it's set or any of those things. I'm super excited about this. And I don't care that I'm a grown man and that I read Hunger Games. It wasn't even too long ago, but I was a fan. I was a fan of every single book. I was a fan of the movies as well. I thought they did phenomenal. And some people don't like, the final book or the final movie or whatever. I liked it all. Hunger Games is a beautiful dystopian future with a really cool concept, some really cool characters. I think that it is one of the series that deserves all the praise that it receives. And this prequel, it takes place 64 years before the events in Hunger Games, and it is the 10th ever Hunger Games that is taking place. So being 64 years prior, we're going to get a whole new cast of characters. I would imagine, being a prequel novel, this isn't going to start a new kind of saga in the Hunger Games. Maybe she's just letting us go back into the world one more time as they kind of set some things up. But again, really excited to go back into the Hunger Games universe, even if it's just one last time. All right, here's where we start to get a little bit presumptuous. This next book might be released in August because someone said it might at one time. Do I have my doubts? Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. The book is called Doors of Stone. Unless the title has been changed, there's really no, I don't know why I'm doing this. There's not like there's an image to show, but it is the third book, the third mainline book in the Kingkiller Chronicle by Patrick Rothfuss. The reason why I'm a little bit skeptical is because Name of the Wind came out in 2007. The Wise Man's Fear came out in 2011. You can do math. That's about 4 years difference. It's now 2020. That is 9 years after the last release in this series, the last mainline release in this series. I keep saying that because I think there is a little novel that takes place after the second with one of the characters, but it's like a 2.5 type thing instead of a 3. So, we're 9 years removed from the second entry into the series. Patrick is not the Patrick. Hey, Patrick, is like we're buddies. Mr. Rothfuss is not the quickest author of all time. He likes to take his time, and I'm completely okay with that as long as we're getting some good material. But we really have been kept in the dark with this book. We don't know much about it at all. I just recently read the first book in this series, and in fact, I should have released by now the video that kind of catalogs my experience, a live read as I go through. So if you're interested in kind of watching someone experience the book and the story for the very first time, then you can check out this video. But we don't know much about this third book that's coming out whatsoever. I've tried to do a little bit of research and see what's being said about it, but really, we've got very much nothing outside of, I think early on, many years ago, Rothfuss said that this is the conclusion to the series. I could see that. Trilogy is a nice place to conclude, but having just read the first book, started to look into the second a little bit, it wouldn't be surprising to me if Patrick Rothfuss keeps the series going. But if he's going to be this slow, thoughtful of an author, then I could see him extending the series past just 3 books. All right, the big one that I'm most excited for is Stormlight Archive number 4. The title is tentatively The Rhythm of War, and I don't know if he's going to stick with this. This is Brandon Sanderson, by the way. November 17th is the tentative release date. He just finished. It was really cool as the year was about to turn 2019 to 2020. I was following Brandon Sanderson on Twitter, and he was saying, hey, I've got like a few chapters left, 20,000 words left or something like that. I'm going to bust it out before the new year. So he spent like a little bit less than 24 hours, but he was going straight, kind of marathoning the last few chapters, giving us updates every hour or so. And it was insane to see how many words he wrote in just a matter of days. I think he wrote, in the last 24 hours, he wrote the final 19,000 words out of a 424,000 book currently. It will surely be edited, so it might be a little bit longer, but probably going to be a little bit shorter than that when it comes out. And I'm super excited about this book. I love the Stormlight Archives, my first entry into epic fantasy, and it's still a kind of a ginormous task for me to undertake. epic fantasy, but I have enjoyed it. I love Brandon Sanderson. He's one of my favorite authors of all times. He's just got the most expansive universe, the most robust magic systems that he develops. I love his Mistborn series, but I'm super excited to continue the Stormlight Archive. Number 3 in the series, Oathbringer, wasn't my favorite of the series. In fact, it was my least favorite of the series. I did like the first 2 more than I liked this third one, but I mean, Brandon Sanderson is always going to hit it out of the park. So I hope come November 17th, I've got in my hand my hard copy of Stormlight Archive number 4, The Rhythm of War. And here's to hoping for this next book. It is the 6th and final entry in the Red Rising saga. This is by Pierce Brown. We don't have a release date, but if his past behavior is a good indicator of what's going to happen in the future, we have Red Rising, the first book in the series, come out in 2014. Golden Sun, its sequel, come out in 2015, with Morningstar, the third in the first trilogy, coming out in 2016. So that was 1 year at a time. And then we have the second trilogy, where Iron Gold, the first book in the second trilogy, came out 2018. Dark Age just released this last year, 2019, which means that quite possibly we could get the final book here in 2020. I don't know. I follow the author, Pierce Brown, a lot, and it seems like he's taking this year to rest, to read before he finishes it. I mean, finishing a series and a saga this expansive is, I could only imagine, very difficult, very time-consuming, energy, heart, life, emotional, everything you got to put into that, and you want it to be good because you can't crash and burn on the final book. So I'm sure that he's taking his time, and I'm completely fine with that. You do not have to give me a book in your series every single year. If you want to, Pierce Brown, you may, but you don't have to. I know that in this final book, there are going to be things that happen that I do not like. People are going to die, and it's going to be people that I love, and it's going to be heart-wrenching. But in all of Pierce Brown's books, his endings are always the best. And that this is the end of it all means that this could potentially be one of the best books in the entire series. Now, I will always have a soft spot for the first one in the series. That's Red Rising. I made a video about my top 10 reasons why you should read Red Rising, and so you can check out that video. But this entire series has been delightful. I love the story. I love the sci-fi fantasy blend. This last book is bound to be brutally epic. And then finally, we have the 4th and final book in the series, An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I feel like I know her just because I've talked to her some, we've met. She's so down to earth. And then this is a series that is so underrated. She is an incredible, incredible author. And this is her very first series, and it is the conclusion to, again, a vastly underrated series. I got to meet Tahir at a book signing for the third book that came out in An Ember in the Ashes. She's a really interesting person, incredible writer. Her writing at times, her prose is poetic. It's very beautiful. It's just very good literature. And it's her first series, which absolutely isn't fair that she starts off with such a home run. And I know she put a lot of work into that. I've heard some of her story. But this series is wonderful. And I know we're not going to get a happily ever after in this final book, but at least Sabaa, give us some hope. She likes doing some dirty things and killing some characters that we love and doing it unexpectedly. And she's going to do that here in this final one. But I'm excited to read it. I'm excited for the conclusion to the series. I know that she's going to do justice to the world and the characters. I'll be sad to leave it, but I'm excited for what Tahir has coming next. But she can't get there until we finish An Ember in the Ashes. I don't know if I said, but it is an unknown release date right now, an unknown title. Talked with her just recently. I know that there is a title and that there is a cover. And I'm pretty sure she's done with the book. So it's just got to go through the processes. I'm pretty sure we're getting this in 2020. This is one of the more confident unknowns that I'm confident of. These are the books that I'm most anticipating for their releases and for my reading in 2020. Really looking forward to every single one of them. Let me know if you're excited about any of these below, or if I missed some important details that I don't yet know about any of these that I talked about below. Also, let me know what I'm missing. I I don't know everything that's coming out, and there's some probably great fantasy and sci-fi books that are coming out that are must-reads. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and like it and subscribe. Join the Dragon Army, and if you care, share this video with someone that you think might like this content. And here's to reading really good books 2020.